Welcome back to the Languages Pedagogy Podcast. Again, here we are in another Keycast episode with another wonderful teachers worldwide. And today we're going to have a really cool conversation with someone, very interesting person, with a very good story on the back. So today we're going to have Yulia, who's a teacher, multilingual teacher. She's actually just guiding students, families in her new country, in Germany, helping them out a little bit with the multilingualism and how to use the languages and different languages. Maybe at home they speak one language or something like it. Something there she's going to explain today. So I want to say thank you very much for accepting this invitation. And please, welcome. Introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what you do.
Thanks, Mike, for inviting me. It's super exciting to be here. As you said, I'm a teacher, qualified teacher of German and English languages, mainly as foreign languages. I have in my career at some point qualified as a bilingual specialist in a specialist in bilingual education. I have a master's degree in childhood education, and mainly in these 8 last years of my career, I've been working with families, as you said, multilingual families, children that are acquiring two and more languages simultaneously, supporting families and teachers to create language-rich classrooms, language-rich environment at home, and help the parents design their path and educational path for their children.
Exactly. Well, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting topic to talk with you. The hidden crisis of multilingual families, why children lose their home language, and how to prevent it. That's a good one. So here are a couple of opening questions that I would like to actually just put it there for our listeners. Why do so many multilingual children suddenly stop speaking their parents' language? That's one. What do you think? Just put in the comments below and tell us. Let us know what you think about it. Is bilingualism really natural, or can it quietly disappear? That's another one. It's a very important one as well. And what emotional, cultural, and psychological consequences happen when children lose their home language? Those questions are pretty intriguing, right? Let's see what they say, what we have actually in the comments, and we're going to get back to them. But let's start with this one. When language loss becomes identity loss, that's pretty huge. Something that it's not easy actually to deal with, and you are there in the front lines. What can you tell us about it?
Well, perhaps we should start with looking at it from both perspectives, from personal level and global perspective. And the on personal level, I see it a lot when I work with families and students that are losing their home languages, or they lost them and are having certain identity crisis. So on a personal level, we need to always remember that language is more than just a set of rules or grammatical structures. It's about
Mhm.
histories, it's about values, it's about
Exactly.
a certain cultural code and ethics that we pass on to children. And the loss of this huge part means often loss of certain roots. It is the communication that is lost with parents or with grandparents, with people from this culture. The conversations become more limited, and it's like no plant can survive without roots, and it works the same for human beings, I believe. And so when language disappears, there is a certain connection to histories and stories that also disappears. And I love this example of reading books to your children that are from not only written in a certain language, but come from this certain country, because the translated books, they do transmit the language, the vocabulary, the grammatical structures, but they don't transmit the values and the cultural code that
Exactly.
I mentioned in the beginning. So a story that comes from a country originally, that was born in that region, carries more than just a translated story, for example. And that's the metaphor I use when I say why this language loss is also a personal identity kind of loss of piece of
Mm,
yourself,
yeah.
of your heritage. So
Maybe. Yeah, yeah.
that's a personal level. And if we look at the macro level, at the global level, of course, it's a broader crisis. And when we speak here about minority languages that are slowly lost in the countries where there was a certain um, um, language that was overtaking the rest of the minority languages.
Yeah.
There are lots of examples in Latin America, in the US,
Yeah.
in Canada, where we could see this development. And of course, when as generations grow up without learning their languages, of their ancestors, the communities lost not only words, but they also lost traditional knowledge, oral histories, ceremonies, and cultural practices embedded in those languages.
Definitely. Well, that was a good explanation over there about how we can start actually t looking at multilingualism, bilingualism, and how to actually keep heritage there. But I don't know, but I would like to actually start a little bit with what parents says. I mean, in your perspective, what have you actually heard from parents? Because some parents have this kind of a misconception, let's say, or they have this type of a lies in the back about multilingualism or bilingualism. And some of them actually says that speaking two languages confuses children.
Mhm.
Do you think this is a myth or truth?
I love this one because you're starting a very dangerous topic related to those fictions versus facts, right?
Hmm.
There's lots of fiction in the whole language development, also coming not only from parents, which I would justify by the lack of knowledge, and well, no, everybody has to be a language specialist, but also coming from people, educated people who are supposed to support language development, educators in kindergartens, teachers in schools, and this all is coming from, I suppose, personal opinions, prejudices, or perhaps the outdated knowledge that was transmitted at some point in their teacher training.
Hmm.
And the myth that you mentioned, that many or multiple languages confuse children, this is an absolute myth, and it has been already confirmed by the research that brains are adaptable, brains are capable of creating sound and vocabulary inventory for the languages, which are not separate. We used to believe they're separate and they're not connected at all, but they are interconnected in our brain, and they are activated at the same time. And if it doesn't convince you, perhaps I could give you another fact is that actually in the third trimester of pregnancy, so it's roughly 28, 40 weeks,
Hmm.
fetuses can, or a child can learn aspects of their mother's language, especially rhythm, intonation, and melody. It is recommended even in the third trimester to read stories, to sing songs already, to communicate with the child that's growing inside you. So brain is already there, starting to develop this inventory of sounds and vocabulary. Of course, this child won't be able to differentiate whether it's Chinese or German, but this child would be able, and there are experiments that neurolinguists have run, that the child would be able to distinguish and react differently to their mother tongues, to the tongue of their mother or father, the language that they were hearing during while they were still in the mother's womb, and the language that's some random
Of
language that they
course.
never heard before. So that's absolutely amazing what brain can do, and I feel like it is such a huge it is huge research and work behind it that's been done that proves that we're not confused and children are not
Mhm.
confused, and it is absolutely possible to learn multiple
Multiple
languages
languages.
simultaneously, and most importantly, not only in the childhood but also in the adulthood when
Yeah.
teenagers, adults, and yeah, so brains are amazing. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it definitely they're amazing. I mean, brains are perfect machines, actually. I would say we don't actually use it correctly sometimes, but it is like
Yeah.
that. And but I'm glad actually you brought the adulthood as well, because most of that's another misconception, not only with the babies or the little kids, learning multiple languages at the same time or whatever, or having or being in an environment with multiple languages, which is might be a little bit hard for them, people might think. But also with adults also have this misconception like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to speak different languages. It's too hard or whatever. But now in this podcast we have also parents. So for sure, one of them might be quite worried. And this might say, you know what? Okay, you're talking about multiple languages. You're talking about having two languages at home or three languages at home. But my child is mixing languages. Should I worry?
Mm. The short answer is no, and let me explain why. And I think mixing languages goes both for parents and children, right? I hear that
Mhm.
often that, oh, I am a speaker of two, three languages, and I'm mixing languages myself with my child. Is it a problem or not? So let's start with the children. With children, it is not a problem at all in terms of it is how brain works, right? And there is a scientific term or terms. One is code switching, and the other one is translanguaging. So as I said, we used to believe that there is a separate box with language one, a separate box with language two, and now it
Mhm.
is has been proven it is not longer the case that I turn off like right now as I'm speaking. So German is active in my brain, although I'm speaking in English. My another home language is Russian is active in my brain. So it is not that I kind of left it somewhere and now only English is active. This is absolutely wrong. So I right now I'm capable. It's also called a certain linguistic skill. I'm capable of not mixing because I'm an adult and I have developed certain skill. But children do that naturally, and they would communicate using all their languages at the same time. And it is absolutely not a problem at all in the beginning. Later on, as they develop their linguistic skill, they will be able to stick to more monolingual mode, as I said, as I'm doing now. And but then also depending on the setting, if I know that the person I'm communicating with speaks German and English, I might mix it flexibly because I understand that the person who's sitting in front of me understands both. So brains do this kind of tricks,
Yeah.
and with the right support and guidance, children will learn how to kind of turn on this monolingual mode. Right now, I'm speaking to a person who only understands English, and I'm going to stick to English. I'm a teacher of English and German languages with a master's degree in childhood education, and for over 8 years now, I've been working with international and bilingual families, supporting children and parents on their language learning journey. I help families design a family language plan and educational path for bilingual children, create a language-rich environment at home where all languages can thrive, and make informed decisions that are based on research and science and not on opinions and monolingual bias.
Yeah.
So this is a natural process of language development. It is not a problem at all. And for parents who are bilingual, multilingual themselves, there is this rule of OPOL, which is one person, one language, right? So if you are a speaker for your child, you decided to speak Spanish to your child, you should only stick to Spanish. This is also not 100% correct, because you might be fluent in English as well, for example, and you want to pass on the English language to your child as well. So here it's just important to remember that every language should have its time and space. So if I'm as an adult want to play a double role of a language model for Spanish and English, I would say, okay, I communicate Spanish with my child at all times, but then we have a story time in English. Or our bed story time is always Spanish, but then at home, I have it can be a carpet, it can be a reading corner, it can be a couch, it can be a tippy tent, which I would call an English corner. And I would go to this corner, and that's going to be my space and time when I will communicate English to my child. So, and switching is absolutely, this code switching for adults as well, is absolutely natural and normal. Of course, given that you're not constantly saying one sentence with 3 different languages to your child, this might be perhaps might lead to certain problems in the future. But the idea of giving each language a space and time and stick to it is absolutely amazing, because with that, being one person, you kind of split yourselves into language role models, and you're modeling both languages for your child.
That's a fact. That's a fact for sure. So you say a couple of words over there. Uh, translanguaging, that's one. That I think it's right now a trend, I would say. Translanguaging. So what is translanguaging in a few words?
Translanguaging is the ability of using languages flexibly, using languages, relying on your full linguistic repertoire. So basically, if you know 4 languages and you learn a 5th one, you might rely on the knowledge that you have from that 4 languages in order to learn a 5th one. So it's using languages flexibly. It's relying on all the knowledge that you have in your brain related to linguistics, to languages. And if we're talking about the action of translanguaging, a verb, when I translanguage something, it is a process that's happening in my brain right now, for example. So I'm kind of bringing all the knowledge that I know in English, but this knowledge I might have acquired in Russian, I might have acquired in German, in Spanish, but right now I'm just giving it all to you in English. So this process that my brain is doing right now is translanguaging.
Beautiful. You couldn't be explained better. That's amazing. Thank you. So another one, since now we are in this time that screens, we're actually just pretty much exposed to screens 24/7. Kids are exposed to screens, and we as adults as well. We need them now. So does screen time help or hurt multilingualism? What is your perspective on it?
Lately, There was a time when teachers in their training were told that the the tools are amazing,
Hmm.
screens are great, the children can listen to stories, watch cartoons, and learn languages. This
Hmm.
is all true, but given that this is an addition to a normal human communication. And there is this beautiful experiment, and I won't be able to remember the name of the researcher who did it, but perhaps we could look it up then and then
Yeah, sure, sure.
provide it in the description to just give credit to this beautiful research.
Of
But
course.
um, there were um, there were two groups of babies up to 9 months old, which have received. They were babies from different backgrounds, but they not the Chinese language, right?
Hmm.
So they received an intervention from a Chinese teacher. So for a certain time, this Chinese speaker would come to the babies and read a story in Chinese. To one group, this teacher would come personally and read a story. And to another group of babies, of children, this teacher would record herself, and basically the recording would be played for those children. She wouldn't come personally. Same story, same amount of exposure, same background that the kids had. So basically, no Chinese language exposure before.
Exposure, yeah.
And well, you might guess what happened. Can you guess what happened?
Oh,
Who
well,
won?
ooh, uh, pretty hard to know. Pretty hard to get to know that one. That's a hard one. How can I know that one? Who would have won?
Well, not one, but who had one of the babies from one of these groups have developed a stronger understanding of the Chinese language. How did they check it? Because the babies didn't speak. They checked the certain activity in the brain, the reaction that brain shows when the Chinese language is played, when the Spanish language is played. So these babies showed, or the brains of those babies showed a better reaction to Chinese than to other languages that were not known to them after this intervention. But it only happened in the group with babies where tun, 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 the teacher came personally to those children, right?
Hmm.
So it didn't happen with the brains of the babies who listened to the recording. So now you can make this conclusion that the natural contact, the physical contact that we have when we speak with the children, being present, reading a story, has greater impact than a recorded story
Hmm.
or a cartoon, much less cartoon. So when parents ask me, hey, shall we watch cartoons or listen to stories? I say yes, but this has to be an addition, in addition to natural human communication. It cannot replace, so screen time cannot replace the natural interactions between a child and a parent.
Wow. That well, I kind of said a comment that one, but yeah, that I don't know why it happens like that. You know, back in the days, teachers used to say, no, this is the best way that you can actually learn. Watch this cartoon, watch, look at this, take a look at the computer. You need a computer so you can actually just keep listening and all that, blah, blah, blah. But now it's totally the opposite. Right now it's like, no, this is just secondary. Let's keep the interaction with the teachers. Let's keep doing that. Well, thank God that's why we still have job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good thing, actually. Good point from a psychological perspective. I wish I could actually know who was the researcher that actually did that one. We're gonna have to find out that, and we're gonna just put it, as you said, in the captions here in the details here in the description. So we have this one. Thank you very much for letting us know about it. It's a very interesting one. Uh, let's take a look at this myth or truth. You tell me. One parent, one language always works. Myth or truth?
Um, you again depends on the family circumstances. As I said, the parent can be modeling both languages for the child, which is great, given that there is a certain space and time, right?
Got it.
But then, if we have a situation in the family where a parent speaks Portuguese and the dad speaks German and the
Yeah.
family lives in Germany, here would it make sense for a Portuguese speaking parent to switch to German as well? I would say no. And this is the advice I would give to that family. In fact, I had this example in the consultations that I offer for the parents, and she said, "Well, I speak German too." Great, but child is in Germany, growing up in Germany, going to the German kindergarten. Dad speaks German, so this child will have lots of opportunities and lots of exposure to German language. How much will this child have for Portuguese? So for this family, my recommendation would be you stick to Portuguese, dad sticks to German, and we talk about the routines that you need to introduce to boost up Portuguese, because Portuguese in
Yeah.
that case is a language that is at risk. It's
Yeah.
the language that, if you look at the family plan or family routines or how their day is structured, Portuguese has a super tiny space and
Hmm.
very little time, whereas German is overtaking all of this. And with time, when the child has contacts, all the social contacts, friends, it will be German because the child will be going to German school, and
Yeah.
Portuguese will be lost. So in that case, I would say it is absolutely good idea to stick to this OPOL.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. Let's take a look
Mhm.
at the next one. Myth or truth? You tell me. English should come first.
Can you explain that one? English should come first in
At
terms
home,
of.
for example, people instead of like keep doing the Portuguese or like the German, they say no, 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 no. Let's stick to English and then the other ones.
Okay, so if you're connecting it to the prestige that English
Hmm.
has, perhaps. Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting one too, because there is this term linguistic prestige.
Hmm.
And of course, certain languages have more value, and it's just undeniable because certain languages are connected to power, to money, to economics, to possibilities. And historically, those languages are English, German, perhaps Spanish. And that's the reason why those languages are offered actually in many schools as a second language.
Hmm.
I never met a person who chose Hindi as their second language in school. So and of course, this comes from that assumption that English is more important,
Yeah.
and or German is more important, and we have to do that first, and our home
Hmm.
language is not important. Now we're coming back to the whole identity crisis, to the loss of connections and roots to the family. If you're coming from a different language background and you're
Hmm.
trying to introduce English, then certainly your child will learn English, and that would be
Yeah.
their main language that they're going to master. And the home language will come to the point when the home language will be lost, right? And then another aspect is that in order to learn, and I say that to the families, again, it depends. It depends on the circumstances, right? But the families who are sending their child, for example, to an English-speaking school, to international school, and want their child to learn English, and they believe that the English is more important than their home languages, and that perhaps in order to help this child to integrate better, to succeed in this English speaking school, perhaps they should switch to English at home.
Mm.
We say You do your job by speaking your home language because a strong foundation in the first language will help this child succeed in English faster. So, if I have a stronger foundation in my first language, in my home language, if I have a strong sense of belonging and identity, that this is who I am, and then I'm acquiring an additional language, I will have a much smoother time and I would succeed much quicker than someone who will confuse their kid by saying, okay, as of now, we're going to switch to English. And it doesn't matter that your first language was Spanish, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I would say myth, a wrong myth.
Definitely. So you also said about an international school. Do you think international schools automatically support multilingualism? Automatically. I mean, you say international school, multilingualism. I mean, do they support them?
Absolutely not. It's not. It's not. There are lots of international schools that are great, that are doing great job supporting multilingualism, and I would say that in the last years, this is which is very positive. This is a trend, and this is a change that's happening also in teacher training education.
Yeah.
And there are lots of professional development opportunities for teachers related to multilingualism, and this is great. But this does not mean automatically that the school supports multilingualism. And what I recommend parents, when you choose a school, if there is a chance to ask for a language policy
Hmm.
for their how they approach the whole multilingualism, how they support students with multiple languages. So the whole student support team, this is very important, and those are very important questions that parents should ask. How the school functions. Are there any
Hmm.
events and opportunities for children to use their home languages or their first languages? How those languages are supported in the in class. Again, language policy is a school policy, right? It's and then every teacher takes it to the level what they think is best, and you can support it more or less as a teacher, also given
Exactly.
your own knowledge and your own um, if the resources are given, right? If the time is given. But again, the policy is already a foundation, and it's a very good
Hmm.
foundation. It means that the school has taken this step to be a
Exactly.
language-friendly school, and they will send their teachers to professional developments. They will insist on implementing those translanguaging strategies and pedagogy